were black that the world didn't care? Was it because they were poor that the world didn't care? Or was it because they were Christian that they didn't care? The fact of the matter is, the selective outrage of the left demonstrates its hypocrisy, where it values the lives of a Palestinian Muslim more than it does an African Christian from Congo.
You are a liar!
But I, though, do care about those Christians in Africa, like the Christians in Nigeria, who are being butchered in their thousands, ladies and gentlemen, without any marches, any protests, any outrage, any anger at all. And I want to say to you, it is on you and on you to raise a voice for the Christians of Nigeria and the Christians of Congo. Any other questions? I'm not waiting for the hecklers to ask a question.
Some of us are mixed with the
Any questions going once?
yeah, a little
Complete
Any
liars!
questions going twice?
Complete liars!
That's all, my
Start
friend.
someone else's religion!
Any questions going three times?
Why do you take money?
Right, you lost your opportunity because you let the hecklers host it. So,
Bunch of liars and bees!
Why do you accept money from America? Even the Arabs in Saudi Arabia, they start waking up. There is no.
You're a paid prostitute for your opinion.
guys, if you want to hear me, I invite you just to stand in front of the hecklers.
Why do you accept
Stand
money
in
from
front of the hecklers.
Christian organisations?
Yeah, I'll just.
The game is over.
Why don't you take DNA tests?
The game is over.
Because
I just want
they're not
to,
real!
Bob. I just want to say I was at Eastleigh. I was at Eastleigh on Thursday with the Disciples of Christ, and I think they're a fantastic movement. Yeah, what we need is more Christian activism.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But questions are over. Guys, I'm just going to wait until the hecklers stop. The quicker the hecklers stop, the quicker
People
I'll
are
stop.
living the Christian faith. Millions every day.
If Jesus was here, he'd pick you up.
Just going to wait for the hecklers to go away, guys.
They're coming back to save us. When your Jesus is coming back anyway, Mr. Speaker, when your Jesus is coming back, tell us about your faith. How wonderful and how logical it is, your faith. Tell us about your faith. When your Jesus is coming back, don't you analyze your faith and laugh about it? Does it make sense? My faith.
It's white people, colonizers and liars! That's what the Jewish people are!
You believe in somebody,
Yeah, I can show you my set out.
Hello family, thanks for joining in. Hit the like, share if you can.
Bunch of criminals. They took the whole continent of America. They made people slaves. They were people. They used to own the land.
No, thank you.
Yeah, you get
Right, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, honestly, the way to do it is just stand shoulder to shoulder and block them out. JC, help me. Just crowd them out so they can't can't.
So they can't what? Tell you that you're in the pay of
shoulder and then have
Why
to
do you
talk.
accept money from Christian organisations in America?
Casey,
Why do you take money from Christian fundamentalists?
Hello.
In America, you're in the pay of American fundamentalists.
Why don't you take
You
a
are,
DNA?
you're a whore of Christian nutters.
Why can't you take a DNA?
Shake your hand again. That's the best I could say again.
right then.
Make it mandatory because
The people that you are.
biggest one of it. We all surely you understand the dynamics biggest one, which means that if
You're all lying.
When someone says, we're not going to upload your film,
it's highly likely they're going to get killed.
of course, in the background, yeah, I understand. But
I'm having a big conversation.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to try and talk about is about the need for urgent reform in our prisons.
I don't want to
The reason why I need to talk about this is because our scriptures as Christians teach us very clearly that we should be concerned for those in prison, particularly the church in prison. It says this in places like in Hebrews 13:3, where it says, remember those who are in prison as though in prison with them, and those who are mistreated, since you also are in the body. It says in Psalm 69:33, for the Lord hears the needy and does not despise his own people who are prisoners. So, JC, bro, could you maybe go and talk with them? So in terms of scriptural principles, guys, in terms of scriptural principles, God has a concern for his people that are in prison. And as we as Christians are called to reflect his heart, we are also supposed to have a concern for those that are in prison. However, there is a problem developing within the British prison system. And so, the MP, Robert Jenrick, has raised awareness about this, and it is about the Islamist prison gangs operating in the prison system.
What about the English prison?
I read from the Conservative and Reformer Post. Conservative journal goes out to conservative-minded people. It says the following. Calling for urgent reform, the former immigration minister laid out a series of measures, including overhauling Rule 46A to make national security a top priority, cutting back judicial interference in the operation of prison decisions, expanding the use of separation centres to isolate radical elements, and most critically, protecting prisoners who refuse to submit to extremist influence. Read that as Islamist influenced. Move closer. Now,
Does that include Albania?
it goes on. Mr. Jenrick's comments are likely to ignite fierce debate in Westminster, where concerns over Islamist radicalisation in prisons have been steadily mounting from the Conservative benches. Critics of the current system have long argued that extremist inmates use religious cover to recruit vulnerable prisoners, enforce control through intimidation, and plan future attacks from behind bars. The point that this article is trying to talk about is the fact that in our prison system right now, there is almost a free-for-all occurring where Islamist gangs are bullying and harassing and attacking those who are not Muslim inside the prison. Resultantly, this has led to forced conversions of people inside prison to Islam. It has resulted in, particularly committed Christian prisoners being put in isolation wings inside the prison system, and Muslim gangs controlling entire wings of the system and establishing mock ad hoc Sharia courts to govern how that wing is run.
Is that including our
Those who are not Muslim can be attacked if, for instance, they should disturb the Friday prayers in some way, by maybe playing their TV too loud or shouting too loud. Christians will be harassed if they display their Christian faith in terms of a Muslim wing or in the presence of too many Muslims. Now let's be clear, as we read in the Bible, God has a concern for his people in prison. And the apostles teach us that we should remember the Christian prisoner like we are in prison, because we are all part of the body. Please move in, guys. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this problem is developing for a number of different reasons. Partly it's because of underfunding of the prison service. It isn't receiving enough funding. It's partly because there has been an intellectual snobbery that has swept the establishment, that has decided that it's best to run our prisons with graduates rather than ex-cops from council estates or ex-soldiers from council estates, because it's preferable to have pen-smart people rather than street-smart people running not just our prisons but also our police. The reality is that has meant that we have lost a lot of experience amongst the screws, amongst the prison guards. Not that they like to be called guards, I don't think. This has resulted in inexperienced prison guards who are too young, too inexperienced, not confident enough, not strong enough to stand up to these Islamists, being outsmarted by them, intimidated by them, and thus cowering from them, giving them a free run of our prisons. Furthermore, we've had interference by political correctness. The state, because it will not pick a side religiously, will not say that Islamists are a problem. It will just say radicalism is a problem. But how then can you distinguish between Islam and Islamist? The state has said that once a prisoner is in prison for one offence, the prison then has to build up evidence that a certain prisoner is radicalising, so they have to reinvestigate them, build a case against them before they can act, which results in prisoners being able to go on again and again, year after year, before the prison system actually does something about their radicalisation efforts. Political correctness is killing our security. Our prisons are becoming a hotbed of recruitment and training and indoctrination to Islamist ideology. And the state, because it is liberal, cannot think what to do about it and doesn't try to do anything about it. And when it does try, it acts like soy liberals. In other words, the problem is individualistic, it's not collective, it's not cultural. But the problem is the grip of the Islamist gangs in our prisons is now a culture. It used to be amongst prisoners that if you had murdered a child or you raped a woman, and you went to prison, the other prisoners would hand out their other forms of justice to you. Nowadays, if you're a paedophile or a rapist, or you kill children, you just go into prison, say your shahada, and then the Muslim gang protects you. Well done, Islam.